Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we can start our conference because we have pretty tight program for today. It's a great pleasure to host you at my Faculty of International and Political Studies. My name is Ryszard Machnikowski and I'm the Dean of the Faculty. And of course, we have a lot of distinguished guests, panelists, participants, students who are going to attend this conference, which is to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the TAC Treaty. And I think that this is one of the very few conferences devoted to this subject organized in Poland. Thank you very much for cooperation with Boyma Institute. I would like also to introduce Dr. Patrycja Pendrakowska, who is the head of the Boyma Institute and participated in organizing this conference. And of course, Dr. Andrzej Anders, who was kind of operating officer of this conference. I would like to introduce our distinguished guest. If you allow me, I will use the alphabetic order of the states of countries who sent our representatives to this event. It's a great pleasure to invite Mr. Jeronimo Suligo, First Secretary of the Philippine Embassy. Agus Haryana, Minister Counselor from the Embassy of the Republic of Indonesia. Mr. Slawina Putri Lestari, Second Secretary from the Embassy of the Republic of Indonesia. Mrs. Nur Zaiti Suhana from the Embassy of Malaysia, First Secretary. Mr. Hadidi Nur Shahidan, Assistant Trade Commissioner from Embassy of Malaysia. And we should also have our guests from Vietnam, Mr. Pham Hai Ling, First Secretary of the Embassy of Vietnam. I don't know whether they are just now present. Maybe they are going to join us later. And Mrs. Nguyen Huyen Trang, the Third Secretary of the Embassy of Vietnam. This is a very strong, as you see, representation of the states which signed actually the TAC Treaty. So we are very honored that you have the opportunity and find time to join our event. And of course, I would like to welcome you on the behalf of two institutions, Faculty of International Political Studies and of course Boyma Institute. I would like to welcome all the distinguished panelists who are going to deliver their presentations today, and of course other participants, our lecturers and students. I would like to stress that we have a very strong cooperation with Koło Azjatyckie. This is a kind of in English, it's not very best translations, Asian circle, but we have circles of students who are just interested and they are devoting their interest towards some particular subjects. And this institution was also participating in organization of this event. As you can see, we have also some stands just outside, and of course, during the break, you are very welcome to join there and to get some knowledge about these things. Okay, I would like to say that this is a great pleasure, and I think that this is showing the strength of our faculty. As a Faculty of International and Political Studies, we are very much interested in the global affairs. And this question of Far East, as it is usually called in Poland, are of great interest at our institution. And of course, that this is a perfect opportunity to hear too many interesting presentations and many interesting to listen to many panelists who are going to cover almost each and every field, economic, political, military, and cultural of the states who are forming this cooperation unit as ASEAN. I think that because the time is flying very quickly, and we have our first panelist with us, who is actually at the airport, waiting for. Oh yes, waiting to go to the airport. So if you allow me, maybe we can start with this very first presentation, and then some kind of speeches of our guests from embassies will be following this first event. Sorry for this, but I think that this is simply logistically better because, well, we would like to allow Dr. Tomasz Łukaszuk to present his point of view. This presentation is called "The Maritime Factor in the Foreign Policy of ASEAN, States in the Context of Attack," and it's going to be presented, I think, in Polish. Yes. Okay. So we can start now, and when. Oh, okay. Great. Okay. Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Ambassador, the floor is yours. Yes. Yes. Bardzo dziękuję. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, for this interesting presentation. Maybe we just follow the rules of this conference, and if we want to have some questions for Mr. Ambassador, I would like to tell you that Dr. Tomasz Łukaszuk was a Polish ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia and India. And if we have questions to Mr. Ambassador, maybe we can just do it now, because later, as you know, Mr. Ambassador is going to leave us because he's traveling. So if you have any questions for this presentation, it's now time to pose it. No, it seems that there are no questions. So, Mr. Ambassador, thank you for participation in this conference, and we are really delighted that you could join us despite this some kind of logistical problems, it is a great pleasure to host you here. Thank you very much. Okay, so we can yes, we can go to this solemn ceremony of opening our conference back, and I would like to tell some very warm words about the Embassy of Indonesia, who is our strategic partner in organizing this conference. As you can see, we can taste some food from Indonesia, which was delivered to our event, and of course, I would like to invite the charge d'affaires of the Embassy of the Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Agus Herayana, to have a short speech at our conference. So please, Mr. Charge d'affaires. It should work.
Professor Ryszard Minkowski, Dean of the Faculty of International and Political Studies, Dr. Patricia Tibel, the Vice Chairperson and Founder of the Boyma Institute, now of course Ambassador Thomas Lucasus, esteemed speakers and panelists, and distinguished colleagues from ASEAN embassies in Warsaw. Ladies and gentlemen, Dzień dobry, good morning. It is a great honor to join you today. I wish to express my sincere appreciation to the University of Łódź and Boyma Institute for organizing this timely conference in partnership with our embassy. And I also to thank Ambassador Lucasus for the presentation, very insightful and thorough presentation regarding the ASEAN. Ladies and gentlemen, for 5 decades, the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation has helped anchor peaceful coexistence in Southeast Asia through the principles of mutual respect, non-interference, and the peaceful settlement of disputes. Today, those principles matter more than ever. As we navigate an increasingly complex and uncertain world, they are not just ideas. They shape how ASEAN operates and responds to its strategic environment. In this context, ASEAN itself occupies a strategic position in the Indo-Pacific, along some of the world's busiest maritime routes, including the Strait of Malacca, the South China Sea, which are vital to global trade and supply chains. Yet, this strategic position also brings growing challenges, requiring constant efforts to preserve stability and strengthen cooperation. To navigate this environment, ASEAN adopted the ASEAN Outlook on the Indo-Pacific, an inclusive, cooperation-driven approach that advances maritime cooperation, connectivity, sustainable development, and wider engagement with partners. Supported by this environment, ASEAN, with a population of around 680 million and a combined GDP exceeding $4 trillion, has become one of the world's most dynamic economic regions. At the same time, ASEAN is not immune to current global challenges. Tensions in the Middle East continue to affect energy markets, logistics, and supply chains. That is why at the 32nd of the Economic Ministers Retreat last March, ASEAN reaffirmed practical steps to keep trade and investment open, strengthen regional supply chains, and reinforce energy and food security. In parallel, ASEAN has expressed concern over escalating tensions in the Middle East and urged restraint and peaceful resolution through dialogue and diplomacy in line with international law. ASEAN will also continue to engage in external partners to ensure coordinated responses and mitigate broader global impacts. In that same spirit of openness and cooperation, we welcome Poland's readiness to accede to the TAC, reflecting its growing engagement with ASEAN. We believe this will strengthen mutual trust and regional resilience. Indonesia, as a founding member and largest economy in ASEAN, also sees a strong potential to deepen relations with Poland within ASEAN framework. There remains significant untapped potentials in trade and investment, as well as in green and digital transformation and academic and people-to-people exchanges. We are delighted to see more high-level visits and exchanges between Poland and ASEAN countries in the recent years. As I conclude, today's conference is particularly timely. It focuses on security and geopolitics alongside economic dimensions, reflects ASEAN's evolving role in the Indo-Pacific, and the importance of continued dialogue in addressing these challenges. I hope that discussions today will generate meaningful insights and contribute to a stronger partnership between ASEAN and Poland. I wish you all a productive and successful conference. Thank you. Dziękuję bardzo.
Thank you very much.
So can I hand over souvenir to you?
Thank you very much.
Professor, and also to the Boyma Institute. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
That's why. Yes. Oh, Professor. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. I would like also to ask Nur Zaiti Suhana, First Secretary of the Embassy of Malaysia from could you please tell us a couple of words about that? It's a pleasure hosting you. Just a few words.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ulfahan from the Embassy of Malaysia. I'm the First Secretary, and I have my colleague here, Mr. Hazizi. He's from Trade Office. So yeah, we don't have any. I was not informed to deliver remarks and anything. So just a simple words from him. To say thank you for hosting. Thank you for inviting, and we wish you all the best for the session for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good. And I would like also to invite you, Mr. Jeremy Sullivan, First Secretary of the Philippine MRC, to help with that.
Good morning. I'm Mr. Sullivan from the Embassy of the Philippines in Warsaw. The ambassador would like to extend his best wishes to this conference and wishes the successful outcome for this activity. Unfortunately, the ambassador is currently in the Philippines due to another engagement, but he sends his best wishes and he expects further cooperation with the faculty and the university in the future, and he looks forward to engaging with you, both the faculty and the students in the future. Thank you so much for the invitation.
And last but not least, of course, I would like to invite Dr. Patricia Zdybel also to deliver a couple of words as our partner institution for the opening of this conference, and then we will move to presentations.
Okay. Thank you very much for the possibility to co-organize a conference with University of Łódź. It's a great pleasure for us. I'm also very happy that we have also so many people from ASEAN countries. This is very unique and also very important for us to be able to exchange views. And I'm also very happy that there's so many students. So if you are interested in Asian affairs, you're also more than welcome to check our website to see what we publish at the Boyma Quarterly, and also to publish articles with us in the future. We have, as part of our team, a couple of actually former students of this department. Maybe some of you know them, so they're cooperating with us and we have very good experiences. So please feel welcome to join us. And there is also Dana. She's not here right now, but I hope she comes. With Dana, we actually made a project a couple of years ago with Konrad Adenauer Stiftung in Cambodia and in Vietnam. So I'm also happy that we managed to bring some scholars from Asian countries. So I'm not sure whether Dana hears me right now, but I'm sure she's going to give a good presentation. Hello, Dana. Happy to see you. You are in Australia right now, yes? Yes, so she's not very sweet. Yeah. So that would be it from my side, and we're looking forward to have great discussions today and exchange of ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now we can go back to this scientific part of our conference, and of course it's going to be led by Dr. Andrzej Anders. So Andrzej, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Dziękuję bardzo. Patrzę na kolegę Roberta. It seems our panel is a bit English language now, but it's not necessary as the first speech will still be in Polish. Thank you very much for your being here. I would like to, before we proceed with the first presentation, I would like to ask all who are here to enjoy the snacks either here or outside for the Indonesian stand. And thank you very much, either during breaks between speeches or during the break later. I will also announce that during the lunch, at the beginning of the lunch break, we will have a short artistic show just here, also thanks to the Embassy of Indonesia. So thank you very much, and I hope you will enjoy. And for now, before we have some lighthearted during the break, let's come to the business, I would say, and I would like to invite first, actually the second of our speakers today, because Mr. Ambassador Łukaszek already delivered his speech. We are sorry for this change. Unusual organization. Mr. Ambassador had to leave for the flight, so the timing was very crucial in this situation, and he also was really willing to participate in the conference. But now, Mr. Dr. Paweł Berend, with the English title "Naval Armament in Southeast Asia." The Polish title is Zbrojenia morskie w Azji Południowo Wschodniej. So you have 20 minutes plus questions.
Where can I?
If also.
So actually, I have my presentation in English.
So if you want to speak in English,
Yes, I will go in English.
so it's I think it's not that.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here, and we will start as this main body of the first part of conference, I think, with some hard security, so naval build-up in Southeast Asia, case of aircraft carriers and submarines. Next slide, please. So here comes my research questions. Generally, at the Boyma Institute, I deal mostly with security issues, also with the South China Sea, or the West Philippine Sea, or the East Sea. So during the years of research, a question came up, what are military and political reasons for the states of Southeast Asia to obtain expensive assets like aircraft carriers and submarines? Next slide. So first we have to go through a bit of geopolitics of the Indo-Pacific and especially Southeast Asia. What we have is strong security dynamics between regional powers. We will discuss this during later panels, like still not only the South China Sea, but conflicts between like Thailand and Cambodia, South China Sea, and other, let's say, maritime issues that are not only between China and ASEAN states, but among the ASEAN states too. Except ASEAN, there is a weak framework of international organization. So there is ASEAN, but still ASEAN, let's say for a conceptual reasons, is not spearheading such a deep integration like the European Union, and there is no equivalent of NATO. There is a rise of China. So China gets more powerful, trying to force its own interests in the region. A bit of security vote. If generally up to the year 2000, this main power in the region was the United States. Despite numerous setbacks in China, then after the year 2000, US concentrates on the Middle East, and despite various declarations of pivots and close to Asia and labeling China as the main rival, we see United States is still concentrated in the Middle East. China, with its action, created a security dilemma. Its efforts to increase own security reduced security of other states in the region. And the South China Sea, that will come frequently today, yes, will it be Lake Beijing or no? And as you see, a declaration of Prime Minister of Japan, the late Mr. Shinzo Abe, peace, stability, and freedom of navigation in the Pacific Ocean are inseparable from peace, stability, and freedom of navigation in the Indian Ocean. So it is where the role of Southeast Asia comes. Następny slajd, proszę. And this is why the Ambassador Łukaszuk mentioned Malacca Strait as the most important maritime choke point in the world. Yes, but still there are detours, like through the Sunda Strait, Lombok Strait. So as you see, it is possible. It is a bit different situation than with Hormuz Strait. You can detour the Malacca Strait, yes, it takes longer time, it raises the cost, and the main problem, there is no equivalent of Singapore, so a huge logistical hub. Next slide. Okay. Yes, through the years, ASEAN states, so okay, let's say it's maritime Southeast Asia states like Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, concentrated on asymmetrical threats: piracy, maritime terrorism, like activities of various branches of Islamic State and other radical groups, illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing. If any of you deals with such topics, there are numerous reports, official, to like sinking arrested fishing boats from other states, mostly Chinese. And smuggling, it was another problem. However, there was a time, so let's say recent quarter century, we have emergence of conventional threats. So a series of communication, securing them, how to respond to the Chinese assertiveness of the blunt aggression in the South China Sea. And finally, the great powers rivalry, generally between China and the United States, but we still have presence of Japan, India, European states, and so on. Generally, response to these two groups of threats demands very different naval assets. Okay. May I go? Okay. Let's send the slide, please. So let's now. Probably you have heard many times that aircraft carriers are useless in the 21st century because new technologies and so on. No, this is nonsense. The question is not if aircraft carriers are useful, but how can you use them effectively? And there are three key roles. Power protection, like US carrier strike groups in the Taiwan Strait during the third Taiwan Strait crisis. Humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. So we have 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, 2011 Tohoku earthquake in Japan, and other tsunamis, hurricanes, volcano explosions in Southeast Asia. Yes, then aircraft carriers, various helicopter carriers, come especially useful because you've got a huge floating airport that can bring a really big number of supplies. It ensures hospitals, a command center for relief operations, and also a floating power plant that supports people on land. And finally, prestige and deterrence. This is carrier is a symbol and proof of great power status. And the example, maybe you don't remember, but when China introduced its first aircraft carrier some 14 years ago, it was like, wow, so finally all UN Security Council permanent neighbors have aircraft carriers. And yes, China did not have until then aircraft carrier is the only one and permanent member, and it was caused of huge pain in the back. Następny slide. I think we can go further. No need for that. Następny slide. Yeah. And actually, we've got two cases for aircraft carriers in Southeast Asia. Thailand as a cautionary tale and Indonesia's ambition. So, Thailand first carrier user in Southeast Asia. So we've got the Chakri Naruebet from 1997. The general issue, as you see, was offshore patrol helicopter carrier. Thailand's Royal Thai Navy wanted a big ship that could be center for various patrol and command operations in the Gulf of Thailand, but it proved very capable during this humanitarian assistance disaster relief platform, 2004 year. However, a problem, high costs, so it effectively is permanently in ports. The carrier was brought together from Spain, together with Harrier aircraft, but another problem, Thailand had not secured enough of spare parts, so 2006, so just 9 years after commissioning the aircraft carrier, its main armament was retired. And the problem is that without clear doctrine, carriers become budgetary burdens. Yes, so in Indonesia, it goes a bit different. Indonesia is the island state, the country of 10,000 islands, I think. Correct me if I am wrong. Has, their floating airfields can be really useful. So as it was declared by Indonesian Navy, there is a need for at least 4 ships capable of carrying helicopters. Not necessarily aircraft carriers, but yes, something you can send, show your presence and use helicopters. And since 2021, the shipyard, the state-owned shipyard PTPAL, presented several concepts of helicopter carriers. And right now, Jakarta is in the process of purchasing of the old Italian light aircraft carrier Giuseppe Garibaldi. So we can say this a budgetary solution. Następny slide. So as we see, aircraft carriers, despite some problems, especially financial, it can be very useful in the region. However, what we see, there is really explosion of submarine purchases in the region. And I found 3 key roles of submarines. First, there is sea denial, prevent adversaries from operating freely in contested waters. Asymmetric warfare, cost-effective way for smaller navies to counter larger fleets. And here is the very good case of Vietnam, that purchases from Russia 6 submarines armed with land attack cruising missiles, what generally changed balance and calculations in the region. And generally, the third role comes from the second, ideal for various patrols, ambush tactics, disruption, and protecting of critical sea lanes. The last is the case, especially for Singapore, that fields a really big submarine fleet. Next slide. And yes, we can say I found these several military and political factors for this purchasing, deterrence and signaling resolve. So this is especially the case of Vietnam and Philippines. Okay, signaling into China. Poprzedni slajd jeszcze. Sea denial and control. It is interesting case for states around the Strait of Malacca. With submarines you can control crucial maritime choke points. Arms race logic, because let's say Indonesia has submarines, then Malaysia buys it, and because Malaysia, Indonesia, and Vietnam have submarine fleets, then Thailand buys submarine. This is mostly the case of Indonesia that builds own submarines with help of South Korea, but transfer of technologies, development of local defense industry. So it also goes with Malaysia and Vietnam, because buying submarines is just halfway, you have to maintain them. And finally, just like aircraft carriers, prestige, national pride, power, and showing we are modernizing our military. Let's temp the slide. Not going into details, you can see how it goes. Vietnam 6, Malaysia 2, Indonesia 4 plus 2 to soon be launched, and it's a plan of 6 midget submarines, what is very interesting. Singapore, the most modern, most advanced submarine fleet in the region. Thailand, was in wrong place, that has several problems. And Philippines, that procurement is ongoing. Okay, next slide. And generally, constraints and limitations that goes all for both aircraft carriers and submarines. As I mentioned, high costs of building and maintenance. Both classes require massive logistical support. Fuel, supplies, maintenance infrastructure. It is actually what Vietnam and Indonesia are doing. So, especially Vietnam, not building in own shipyards, but forcing the other side of the deal to invest in shipyards and all this infrastructure. What we see that introduction of unmanned platforms, both aerial and underwater, in theory gave new abilities. However, if you want advanced unmanned platforms, you have to pay. Yes, they are expensive. Finally, effective operations will require advanced technologies, so they force substantial investment and expertise. So if you have a well-constructed agreement, then your industry can benefit. If not, okay, yes. So going to conclusion, floating airways is always useful. Growing geopolitical tension and uncertainty about the future role of the US. So this is one of crucial problems. Rise demand for deterrence and power projection capabilities. MOOT, this military operations other than war, especially this human assistance, much appreciated in the region, frequently affected by natural disasters. And it seems that as by now only Singapore, Indonesia, and Vietnam have coherent submarine as doctrine. I think it is all. Yes. Thank you for your attention. I hope yes. Went in time.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you have, perhaps we need a question session at the end, because then we can also talk and compare different, because we are in opposition to Mr. Ambassador, and we are not press. But please, before I introduce another speaker, please let me welcome our guests from Vietnam, mentioned already by Mr. Jin, Mr. Hai, the First Secretary of the Embassy of Vietnam is often. If I pronounce it wrong, Nguyen Phan, the Third Secretary of the Embassy. I'm very happy you managed to arrive and to attend our conference. So thank you very much. We are very happy. And now let me allow to introduce, already mentioned by my colleague Patricia, the another speaker, Ms. Dana Lee from Australia. Ms. Dana, are you here? So. Okay, so let me introduce just 1 second. We are still staying with the geopolitics and security issues. Ms. Donnelly will subject is trust before truth, conditional trust in the 2025 Cambodia-Thailand border conflict. So I hope this will fit well from the marketing side, general side discussed by Mr. Łukaszu. mergers are discussed by Dr. Beden, and now we have the landside, let's say, of the problems faced by ASEAN. So please, the floor is yours.
No.
Now
Yes.
we can see, yes.
Yes, what? Thank you very much for this. If you would kindly wait with us, stay with us to the end of the panel, as we can share a question and answer a question at the end, and this would be better. So thank you very much for the very insightful speech and showing another perspective on the region. And I would like now to invite Mr. Witold Porkiewicz-Damel, who will present us again a bit different perspective. Between the presentation will be entitled "Between Cooperation and Competition: India and ASEAN Doctrines in the Indo-Pacific." So that I think it will again be perspective. Okay, Mr. H, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the attendance. The topic I'll be focusing on is between cooperation and competition in the India and ASEAN countries. This idea for the presentation is influenced by the conference I attended in Delhi last year, which also focused on the context of cooperation between India and ASEAN and the possibilities of growth rather than conflict. Continue. So let's start with regional stakes, just to give a brief background. So obviously, the elephant in the room is the crucial location of the Indo-Pacific as it is. Its geography, with concentration of the global trade and energy flows, which affect the massive amounts of population, and those few choke points that affect it greatly, from the Strait of Malacca, obviously linking the Indian Ocean and South China Sea, to the Lombok and all the adjacent Indonesian straits, up to Strait of Hormuz, more closer to India. It shows that those few choke points and greatly create acute vulnerabilities for the region, that even a small disruption, as we can experience also today with the disruption of the Strait of Hormuz, create great disruption in the energy supplies, in the trade sector, and also security for the whole area, which affects great population. Another aspect is the major dynamic between the United States and China. The ongoing China's naval modernization has also more aggressive stance and Belt and Road initiatives greatly contrast with the previous presence of the Washington and the Washington's stance and efforts to maintain its power in the region. This situation, this contest of the great powers pushes regional states and regional actors to create a hedging position between the powers. Many unilateral agreements, especially taken by India and Quad and AUKUS, and expanding bilateral security ties, create a new vessel for those regional actors, as ASEAN and India, to create a different, to take a piece of the cake for themselves in the situation of greater conflict. Another aspect which is crucial to the understanding of the region is obviously non-traditional threats, which we have to keep in mind. Both aspects of the climate change and aspects of fisheries and pollution and health in general are crucial to understand that the problem of overfishing and general marine ecosystem degradation is of utmost importance to both India and ASEAN countries, and those areas create a possibility for greater cooperation and working together to mitigate those problems. So I'll start with a little bit of background of the India's policy for this region. Obviously, one of the most important aspects has been a Look East policy created in the 1990s, and then its evolution into more security-aware, more holistic Act East policy. This has been a change in India's policy from just going based on economic merit and greater economic ties to ASEAN countries to including also aspects of general security, especially security related to maritime issues and vulnerabilities, as well as growing China's maritime presence. This also is influenced by India's desire to become more of an actor in the region, while stopping the China's expansion. This is related to India's core priorities to the region. This is obviously there are three main priorities to this region from India's perspective. This is maritime security, which is protecting sea lines of communication, of security, also of newer technology of internet cables, countering piracy and enhancing joint patrols. The second aspect is the economic aspect, but also the blue economy aspect of sustainable economic development, sustainable fisheries, and port connections. And thirdly is capacity building in training, in hybrid infrastructure, in assistance and disaster response to the region. So in those regards, the India's been trying to create a strategic approach by unilateralism, as mentioned before, with both many multilateral partnerships with ASEAN countries, as well as cooperation with Japan, Australia, quadrilateral, rather than forming pure military alliances. Okay, so now the ASEAN's role is. So generally, ASEAN functions as a region's primary convener and platform provider for bringing states together and to create a platform for sustainable dialogue and collective decision-making. It's a very unique role that it creates a diplomatic space when East and South Asian countries can, and also external powers can negotiate and build confidence-building measures, economic frameworks, and create a better security dialogue for the whole region. As a norm setter, ASEAN advances norms of non-interference, consensus decision-making, and gradual institutional build-up that creates that affects the whole region. Especially, it's important to mention the ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific, AOP, which endorses the Indo-Pacific that is open, transparent, inclusive, and anchored in international law. This emphasis is secured in the cooperation, in connectivity, and better economic integration of the partners of ASEAN, as well as connecting partners to the ASEAN. So mainly ASEAN strengths are procedural and pragmatic. They are convening powers. They have both established ministerial and senior official procedures and experience in delivering real mechanisms that tackle the problems of the region, and as well as strictly going outside, connecting to the outside partners, including India. Also important is to mention one previous one, the problematic aspect. Well, problematic in some ways. In some ways, it's also strategic. This is about the member divergence. This is a different political census of the ASEAN members on economic and political ties to the major powers. Obviously, the stances on China and the US greatly affect possible general agreements between ASEAN and other countries in subjects of security, and this is a very delicate subject. And so countries with more neutrality cases, like Cambodia and Laos, which are in many ways China-oriented, they would definitely protest against greater cooperation with India, which can, well, which could show that India is trying to actively combat China in this area. So some countries look forward to cooperation with India and making greater cooperation also in security and maritime domain, like Singapore. While there's also important different aspect of instability in the region, which is changing, change of leadership that can affect the political measures and create possibility of creation of different agreements. Okay, the next one. Yes, so the institutional ecosystem. This is quite a complex matter, as ASEAN functions on many forums, many bodies that even some of them are not strictly connected to the ASEAN in its terms, remain as a hub, as a pillar of their cooperation. So generally, there are three interlocking community pillars of ASEAN, which is political, security, economic, and social cultural. But certain additional bodies also focus on specific measures. So ASEAN Regional Forum is expressly a security dialogue mechanism that for confidence building and alliance-style commitments, and focuses on local politics crisis management. So there's also an East Asia Summit, well, not strictly connected, but brings leaders from ASEAN and key partners to deliver strategic, economic, and transnational challenges on the summit level. So there are many bodies within the ASEAN and also connected to the ASEAN which matter in this aspect. Another thing is the general India-ASEAN connection, how those two powers cooperate with each other. So both bodies have engaged in institutionalized across leaders, ministerial and technical channels. There are annual India and ASEAN summits that provide political guidance, and there are also some declarations as well as certain goals and to which they plan to achieve certain tracks. There are also many direct ministerial cooperations between the India and the ASEAN countries on topics which are defense, trade, transport, and fisheries. Another aspect is the general aspect that for me quite unique is a problem that was also mentioned on the conference in Delhi, that the amount of institutions, the amount of cooperation that has been created between the ASEAN and India can also be problematic. Problematic because of the overlapping mandates and limitation of the consensus. This causes a very unique situation when there is both over and under regulation in certain aspects when it comes to, for example, maritime safety. And when there are no universal norms across ASEAN countries and India, which causes the lack of security in this region. This is just the background information on the India-ASEAN history, how their relations evolved over the years. As I mentioned, it started in 1992 with the beginning of the Look East policy and the transformation from a non-aligned bystander of India into becoming an Indo-Pacific stakeholder. And this is the area in which the ties become better, then the sectoral dialogue partner, and then a full dialogue partner. Then the second phase of this cooperation was general strategic deepening between India and ASEAN. Through the evolution, there were three trade agreements as well as every year summits to committed. This year, just to remember, this 2026 has been named as the India-ASEAN year of the maritime safety. So this has been a pivot in which they are trying to play and cooperate the most. Okay, so I also left a quite interesting chart. I found it on the official Indian's trade government trade website. This is a SWOT analysis of possible more economic cooperation with ASEAN countries. It shows that in India's perspective, it's quite an important one to deepen the ties, as well as especially in the aspect of opportunities, as India is willing to show its sites as a reliable partner in ASEAN, especially also in electronics and semiconductors and these new technologies. Colleagues. Okay, I provided also two small case studies. Well, I call them case studies, but they're also more like explanations of the spheres in which the ASEAN and India currently cooperate, and there's also a place for deeper cooperation. So I'll start with the first one domain has been maritime safety. So so as an explanation, there is something called Malabar exercise. This is India's originally Indian US and then exported more into India and Quad cooperation on the maritime security. As it is a Quad, it's more politically connected to the confronting China in this aspect, which obviously is against the stance of the many of the ASEAN members. This is why there has become a new norm of creating alternative to this Malabar exercises. There's something called Milan exercise in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. There are more and more ASEAN countries and India, because the host is in India, as well as different countries in Japan and many others, who create a sphere of general multi-platform cooperation in aspect of maritime security. And this includes cooperation of their militaries, as well as projecting the power, but projecting power not as an opposition to the China, but showing their own that they have their own capabilities and know-how of creating a strategic autonomy in the region. Another aspect in which the cooperation in the maritime is currently expanded and can be also in the future is the aspect of general security in aspects of Coast Guard support. There is Coast Guard cooperation and training between the ASEAN member states and India as well. Okay, so maybe the next slide. Another case study has been the technology, as it is crucial in this domain. Obviously, we know in the public domain that there is discussion between the Western technology and the Chinese technology. For the ASEAN and India, this needs to be quite a leverage decision. So there is an ongoing decision to cooperate more into those domains as a security matter. The aspects of 5G networks, undersea cables, as well as critical choke points in the data aspect, create a situation in which those two regions with a massive population and great economic growth need to create a new way of not being dependent on China or Western technologies, but rather to create their own system. And this is actively being done with new forums and together a Center for Security and Emerging Technologies and other exchanges which are happening over the ASEAN and India. Okay, maybe we can skip this one because we don't have time. Okay, so maybe a little bit about what is the main source of friction between the India and ASEAN in relationship to security. The main thing is the doctrinal ambiguity. There are differences in understanding the certain terms which are applicable to both ASEAN and India, like the free and open Indo-Pacific, but there is no there is a lack of direct understanding of what to do to those aspects. This is due to the certain ASEAN member states' preference not to show their side in or against China, while not trying to be aligned with India. And this is why there is, one of the ideas of solution is going from the strategic ambiguity, which is currently and historically served ASEAN, to now doctrinal transparency to prevent miscalculation and mistrust between India and ASEAN. For example, India could clarify its stance on the South China Sea, not as an alignment with the US, but as a defense of international law, whereas ASEAN nations could articulate specific thresholds for what constitutes coercion. And this clear definition could reduce the security dilemma that certain ASEAN countries have by allowing partners to distinguish between defensive posturing and offensive intent. fostering a more predictable environment where the cooperation between the nations could foster while not angering Chinese staff. Okay, and maybe the last slide just as a thank you. Okay, thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I'm sorry I had to cut through. I really, there will be more to be read in the publication afterwards. I know this is always a problem when you have a lot of assignment. And this is my hard duty to cut off and keep the time. I will need to. Well, I wanted to use the privilege to give the voice to myself, and I'd like to save some space for the question and answer session at the end. I believe this is also something which can be interesting and allow us for discussion and deepening. So, okay, I will allow myself to introduce myself as a journalist from the Boyma Institute and also University of Łódź Department of International Studies. My speech, the presentation is rather short, just is about ASEAN centrality in the context of the new superpower competition. There are two concepts which I would like to discuss here. First of all, the main point is, what does it mean ASEAN centrality? This is the first point, because we use it a lot. This was used even in the presentation just before me, and we talked about what that actually means ASEAN centrality. And there are then two things, challenges to this ASEAN position, how the ASEAN, the external and the internal, because I believe there are both external factors influencing the centrality of ASEAN for whatever it means, and the internal. And then I would like to give some perspectives and conclusions about it. So please, next slide. What does it mean ASEAN centrality? And the first thing is that we use it a lot, but there is no one definition. This is we use the term and generally everybody knows what it doesn't mean, but there is no definition. This is important because whereas usually the centrality means ASEAN is the leader, institutional hub, the nucleus of regional cooperation. You mentioned rightly also the rules set by ASEAN as a certain point of reference, but whereas it's all true, it's also wrong in a certain sense. There is no point. This is ASEAN centrality and this is not. This is This is somewhere where there is ASEAN centrality. And in my opinion, this means something which we need to first focus. First of all, whereas ASEAN Charter, which was also mentioned by Ambassador Łukasiewicz at the beginning, talks a lot about the values of ASEAN. And it is really an interesting factor. This is a very fundamental document when we refer to all the actions which are undertaken under ASEAN brand, let's call it. There is no concept of ASEAN centrality mentioned directly in the ASEAN Charter. However, if we understand ASEAN as a hub of other organization, hub of activity, then we can claim that ASEAN Charter implies centrality indirectly by describing all the ASEAN-related institutions, all the ASEAN-related projects which are mentioned explicitly in the Charter. So we don't have a definition, but we can say it's somewhere there, already in the Charter. And the biggest challenge, in my opinion, for all this concept for ASEAN centrality is that when we discuss, first of all, how does it work? And the second, when we discuss the ASEAN centrality in the context of a bit broader regional institutional framework, we can say ASEAN centrality in context of EAC. But we can put China in the center, or we can put another actor in the center, and we still get some concept. Can we get another slide? Here is you have ASEAN affiliated network. Please forgive me, this is a bit outdated slide doesn't include a new member like Timor-Leste, which is a new member, and it's still, sorry for not updating, this is a bit older, but we have overlapping, like ASEAN, we have ASEAN +3, we have this SDK, RCEP, ASEAN TAP, so there's a lot of different combinations, which some of them you can use as ASEAN center, but some of them are not necessarily. You can use just some members are related. And this is one problem, that due to the very nature of ASEAN, which is, I would call it a bit of looser organization, looser in the sense of not very tight organization, which is by design, and I think this is the right concept. But it brings its own advantages, but it also has its costs. Simply, you cannot get everything at once. Next slide. You can please look into this. You can say there is not very well known ACMECS group, which is originated from Thailand at the beginning of 21st century, and actually it works on Lower Mekong River. And frankly speaking, it at least partially overlaps with ASEAN, extended ASEAN. You can put it here, but you can actually start with CLE or ACMECS grouping, and then you build towards more or less the same stages. So actually, the centrality depends how we define it and what we put in the center. There is no like a full objectively defined that you have ASEAN plus something. It's just like we call ASEAN centrality partially because ASEAN itself claims the centrality, but whether this centrality is or is not a fact, this is, in my opinion, a big matter of perception. On one hand, it suggests that we may claim ASEAN is not central. On the other hand, though, perception is often very important. The very fact that I am talking, and we were talking before during previous speeches about ASEAN centrality, not ACMECS or CFO centrality, is the fact that this notion works. However flawed in practice it may be, this is the point of reference, not something else. Yes? And frankly speaking, in documents of ACMECS or CFO, you have sometimes the reference to centrality of those organizations. Next slide, please. So this is the first one. The ASEAN centrality is more like a certain concept, not necessarily, not a hard fact. This is something in a way aspirational, which is in a positive sense, of course. Of course, there are several challenges for ASEAN centrality in ASEAN role in a region where we are, and the main one is this is great power rivalry, and this is the external factor which I used to mention. This is obviously let's say China rivalry. And basically, the more and more we observe, I think, in my opinion, this is more USA started to push. In China reacted like with the same process for the ASEAN members to choose sides. And the problem is that ASEAN member states basically don't want to choose sides. It doesn't mean they don't have their own interests and they don't want to cooperate. They want to cooperate both with China and USA. Of course, it depends on situation. We have countries which are more leaning towards China. This is like Cambodia or Laos particularly, or for practical reasons, or for obviously Philippines, which are more leaning towards USA. But it does not necessarily mean that ASEAN countries want to choose one-sided, like the other side doesn't matter. Even from the point of view of Philippines, I know this is something very much debated inside how to cope security versus economy. Because you cannot change geography, basically. There is no way. The Philippines are next to China, not next to USA. Yes, all of the countries of ASEAN are physically close to China. And it must be taken into consideration. So, objectively, up to quite recently, you could say that with local variations. And I mentioned that, okay, yes, Philippines is a very strong variation in this case. ASEAN countries more or less relied for security USA and economy cooperation China. This is broadly speaking, we have like Cambodia, Laos, which perhaps cooperated militarily more with China, Myanmar, which is at this moment a totally separate question because of the civil war there, and this is, let's say, we should not, this is a separate issue, hard to discuss, which we'll discuss further. However, this delivery gets more and more and affects more and more countries. The most recent case, in my opinion, is just a few days ago, we have a Chinese ban on American Meta, which is Facebook, acquiring one of the important AI startup, Manus, which is originally Chinese. It moved to Singapore. It was registered as a Singaporean company. However, the legislation over the last few years, China already introduced legislation which allowed it to ban sale of this company to American company for the security and IP protection reasons. This is the fact which puts ASEAN more and more in a very hot seat, because the pressure, like the sanction regime from USA on one side, and the growing, this is not yet a counter, say, sanction, but let's say something which, in my perspective, in let's say 5-10 years, may turn out as an alternative sanction regime from Chinese side, even if it will be called a different way, may put ASEAN in a very unfortunate situation where those big powers will try to push ASEAN to choose. And the whole point, I think, if we looked for the discussion before, it was mentioned partially, ASEAN is a crossroad. ASEAN wealth goes thanks to connectivity. It doesn't make sense to choose. Moreover, we should remember here, I would like to remind something which is important in the context of TAC Treaty. ASEAN was born to prevent external, meddling into the local politics of the country. So this is, in my opinion, pretty important to come back to ASEAN. You want to find a way how to save ASEAN, let's say, sovereignty in a case where you have external pressure. Next slide. And the problem is that external pressure is not the only problem of ASEAN itself. The first one is a relative lack of unity. Thanks to the process enlarging of ASEAN and making, which are very diverse countries, makes certain lack of internal cohesion. You have the countries which you can call pro-USA or pro-China camp, which make it harder for gaining consensus. And consensus is a value of ASEAN. Basically, decisions are taken by consensus, and it is by design. The other problem, which is lack of ability to cope with Myanmar war, in my opinion, frankly speaking, what happens in Myanmar with the elections, which are problematic, but perhaps they will give ASEAN a face-saving way to cope with Myanmar somehow. This is what happened before. Basically, ASEAN, one of the rules of ASEAN Charter is not meddling in the internal policy. I know it's harder and harder in the modern time when we have a pressure for democracy, transparency, and human rights. But on the other hand, it leaves a serious problem how to cope with a country like Myanmar. I will just mention that second challenge to ASEAN was the Thai-Cambodia war, which was mediated through ASEAN, but also through America. The very fact that this conflict appears there publicly is a bit of a challenge. But now I will come with what, in my opinion, is a crucial factor. It's a lack of clear leadership within ASEAN. It doesn't mean that there is no secretariat, there are no leaders, but I think that due to internal factors, the largest country in ASEAN, Indonesia, which for a very long time was considered a kind of informal head leader for the organization, due to the character of internal policy in the recent years, stepped back a bit. And there is not a new country stepping in with enough power, let's say, to persuade others. Actually, if we look into the surveys in the region, it's often Singapore mentioned as the most influential as a leader, but it's just 30-something%. Indonesia, Malaysia, but it's not enough. So there is, I believe, there is a need for more work from inside to find a new formula. Next slide. And just to return, and so first of all, I believe there is a necessity to define a common goal for ASEAN. This is, and I think there is a work to remind me what was the starting point. ASEAN was not created to solve all of the problems of the earth. ASEAN was to solve particular problems of Southeast Asia, like with countries which are diverse, there are plenty of conflicts to prevent conflicts between countries, to prevent, not to allow external powers to use those conflicts for their own profit. And I think this is a very good starting point and reminder for the modern ASEAN also, like trying to create. Okay, and maybe the last one, I've already finished, sorry. Hedging strategy, we need, this is something to find a cooperation. And I know ASEAN, this is actually ASEAN is doing very much, finding partners among middle powers, among the countries who share the same problem as ASEAN, where the great powers try to coerce them to choose sides. And a lot of middle power countries, whatever it means, there is no time to talk about it, don't want to choose. It's not just a problem of ASEAN. And I think, in my personal opinion, just part of what we are doing here, what happened at the conference in Warsaw like last month, is a part of the very broad process of building this hedging strategy, of finding partners different than major powers. Alone, no small country can survive, but together it gives a certain bargaining power to survive. Okay, thank you very much. Just so I will stay here and I will ask you, do you have any questions for any of the speakers who are before me, or any remarks perhaps from your side? Yes.
Ask my name is Jared Lecia. I'm pursuing a master's in international political studies. And so my question was about the aircraft carriers. Given the high maintenance, personnel, and operating costs, are they a sustainable long-term investment for Asian states, given that currently there are cheaper anti-ship missiles and drones that are becoming more effective? Thank you.
Yes, this is what I mentioned. Thank you for your question. This is what I briefly mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, as it is the crucial question. If in the era of what you mentioned, so evolving and more effective anti-ship missiles and so on, are the aircraft carriers effective? And yes, it is cost effect is good. I would say it depends what do you want. If as we have in this case of Indonesia, if you want some aircraft carrier, let's say a cheaper one, to primarily attend and then participate in various human assistance missions or patrols, let's say outside of going head to head against Chinese or US Navy, then yes, it makes sense. If you think you are building some aircraft carriers to fight against more powerful enemy, no, it doesn't make any sense. And it is fairly interesting. And you see that, let's say, Vietnam and the Philippines that are in a different situation, they do not think about purchasing any helicopter carriers or something similar, but as you said, they invest in advanced anti-ship missile capabilities. So from their point of view, such an approach makes sense. We've got this case of Thailand that there was some initially fairly attractive idea. So let's have a cheap aircraft carrier to strengthen our power protection capabilities in the region, but without this clear doctrine, it came, yes, it is expensive toy. So I would finish it briefly. It depends what you want to use aircraft carrier for. So if you got a coherent idea and concept, yes, then it makes sense. If you just want to have it, so yes, I have enough money, I am strong enough to have aircraft carriers, then no, it doesn't make any sense.
Thank you very much. Are you satisfied with the reply? Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay.
Hi, Dana, are you there? Dana? Let's see. She's coming. Okay, if not, then I would have another question for you because you gave us a very good analysis of India-ASEAN cooperation. And I wanted to ask you, have you been able to compare it with China-ASEAN cooperation? So if yes, if you could elaborate a little bit on that issue, because I think it's equally interesting to see how India manages its relation with ASEAN and then how China. And I see Dana is also here. So Dana, you hear me? So I wanted to ask you whether, because you gave us a quite interesting methodological approach to researching trust issues at the Thai-Cambodian border. But I wanted to ask you, did you think about using this methodology or do any kind of studies to compare it with other border conflicts? Because I think the methodology you showed us could be used also for us in Poland, because we've got so many problems stemming from our geopolitical position. One is, of course, Belarus, the second is Kaliningrad, and the third is war in Ukraine. So I was wondering whether you came across any kind of comparison with your methodology or the methodology you are referring to what is happening in Central Eastern Europe, because I guess we could draw even some common maybe conclusions. Thank you.
Perhaps in the order of your presentations, I will ask first Ms. Dana to reply to our colleague. So please.
Yes, yes, we can.
In other conflicts, because it's Cambodia Thailand conflict is only like a representations of like single case study, and which I think it's very much related to as a representations of contemporary conflicts. I did discuss about that with my colleague before, that you can do it with any other active conflict study, like using like process tracings, like during active conflict, not just in Eastern Europeans, but also like in other parts of the world also, as long as it is like contemporary, like active conflicts.
Okay. So now,
Thank you very much for the question. We're generally my analysis was focusing on the India ASEAN and its history as well as possibilities of further cooperation. The aspect of China itself, as in China and ASEAN and its relations, would be a separate and I imagine very much complex topic to analyze and discuss. But the aspect of China in general was a topic that was following along when I was looking at this analysis between the India and ASEAN. China as an actor is actively trying to prevent some of the further collaborations in aspect of maritime safety, and it has been leveraging its power and position also in some of the ASEAN countries to prevent further bilateral collaborations between the India and those countries. So definitely it's a player that is trying to hinder some of the works that they're trying to develop the cooperation between those ASEAN and India. But as I said, one of the main focuses that was also picked up by many of the think tanks in India and representatives in ASEAN, which on the conference when I was attending, was that trying to stay away from this obviously all-encompassing conflict of US and China and choosing the sides and staying away from this, rather showing that this cooperation between India and the ASEAN nations stems on mainly security issues which are crucial, like rescuing, fighting the piracy, securing the general aspects of new technologies, like I said, underwater cables, and rather focusing on combating China's pattern and focusing on general security of the area, which encompasses hundreds of millions, billions of people in those regions. So this is mainly the topic. Okay, thank you.
thank you very much. Any other questions? I will have one more question. Judging by the time, perhaps the last one, to Ms. Dana. Actually, because you mentioned Vietnam, Cambodia, Thai-Cambodia border conflict, please check with me. And from my perspective, this is one of these conflicts which I mentioned, I didn't elaborate, but this is one of those conflicts where ASEAN was playing part of a mediator, but there are different, and I would like to ask you, what do you think, what was the role of ASEAN in solving and future solving of the conflict between Thailand and Cambodia in the border? How do you perceive ASEAN's role in this conflict?
Sorry, is this question addressed to me or?
Yes, this is for you. I would like to
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, I couldn't hear the beginning of the question clearly. So, if I have to rephrase again, you asked about how ASEAN will involve in the conflict in the future. Is that correct?
I wanted to ask what is the role of ASEAN as a mediator or in solving or in general in a conflict which we're discussing between Cambodia and Thailand? Both are ASEAN member states. So what is the role of the ASEAN as a mediator or another role?
Thank you so much. So I did compare like the role of ASEAN in solving the conflict during the 2025 conflict and 2008 to 2011, like 10 years, over 10 years ago. So there is different distinctions between that. During 2008, there's also constraint like within ASEAN because like two member states having conflict along the border, and at the time ASEAN chairman was Thailand during the previous conflict, which is different from this time because in 2025 ASEAN chairman is Malaysia, and even though it's constrained by institutional ASEAN frameworks, which Dr. Enders also discussed earlier, I do think there's a lot of debates whether what we achieve like during the ceasefire, is it ASEAN as an institutions or ASEAN because of one chairmanship, ASEAN as like Malaysia as a chairmanship. So is it like an achievement of Malaysia chairmanship, or is it an achievement of ASEAN as an institution? There was a lot of discussions on that, like within Cambodia, and I get the chance to ask the same questions to former Malaysia Prime Minister Dr. Mahathir bin Mohamad, and he was a former Prime Minister of Malaysia, and his answer, which I would like to repeat, that he believed in ASEAN as an institution, which I don't believe the same thing, because I think if this conflict were to happen under Cambodian as a chairman or under Thai as a chairman, or maybe any other a few other ASEAN member, the conflict would the ASEAN would involve in the conflict differently from this time. And this work this time, like 2025 ceasefire, it's worked just because Malaysia has some interest or quite related to the border issues in general, because Malaysia also share border with Thailand, and at the time of the conflict or before the conflict, Thailand has border conflict not just in Cambodia but along other borders also, like Thailand and Myanmar, and also like tensions at the south of Thailand. So it's just because Malaysia share similarity like in the issue, which is why this is also an interest of Malaysia to be a mediator. So I do think that it's not ASEAN as an institution that deal with this, but it is ASEAN because it is under Malaysia chairmanships. That is from my perspective. And how, like, to address your question, like how should ASEANs involve in the future conflicts of any other member state? I think there should be a framework of conflict management that when there is like a member state, when there's a conflict between member states, there should be so the two members should be excluded, and there should be like a mechanisms that the other age member can discuss and like step up in order to resolve the conflict immediately, not constrained like the case of Myanmar or Cambodia, Thailand last time. So I think there should be like a better framework compared to the current one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So thank you very much for the quite comprehensive reply. Do you have any other questions? Due to the lack of time, actually, I would like to continue the subject of the role of ASEAN as a mediator, because it's very much interesting for me. But we don't have time. So perhaps we can contact about and talk about it later. Pity you unfortunately cannot be with us here in person. This would be a perfect opportunity to talk. So thank you very much, Mr. Lee. And we have a moment before the break, but I would like to announce a small surprise for all of the panelists. So I would like to ask the panelists who participated here on the spot to come here for a moment. And please. And thanks to the generosity and kind support of the Embassy of Indonesia, we have a small gift for the speakers today. So may I ask Mr. Secretary of Indonesian Service to provide souvenirs for our speakers. And I, using this opportunity, I would also like to thank Ms. Laurin very much, because without her, this conference wouldn't work. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your participation in the presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So now, are we ready for Okay, so now another part of some pleasant arrangements. I would kindly ask to invite you, perhaps on the floor behind you, so you could kindly turn back. There will be also, thanks to the help of the Embassy of Indonesia, we can have the pleasure to watch a traditional Indonesian dance show. So this will be as a kind of a, I think, very much suitable show for that.